Very well, Mr. Chair, we are live. One moment. We are live on YouTube.
Diggity dog. All right. Okay, it's 7:04.
Chair, we are live. One moment.
It's 7:05 p.m. February 1st, 2023. Thank you everybody for coming. I'm calling this meeting of the Lafayette Transportation and Circulation Commission to order. I will call your name out and just say here or present, starting with Greg.
Present.
Lynn.
Present.
Stella.
Present.
Vianney.
Present.
And I'm Carl DiGiorgio. Bart is not with us tonight. We also have staff members, Patrick and Therese.
Yeah.
Okay. Someone move to adopt the agenda, please?
I shall move.
Second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please. Oh, no, I'll call it out. Vianney.
Aye.
Stella.
Aye.
Lynn.
What did you just say?
Adopting the agenda. Aye.
I adopt.
Okay. Greg.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So no changes to the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. This is the we're on item 4 on the agenda, public comments. This is a time for people in the audience that want to speak on an issue that's not on the agenda. So if any of the attendees want to mention something that concerns them, this is your opportunity.
Mr. Chair, I see no hands raised.
I likewise see
Oh,
no-
I'm sorry, Jeff Bell.
Okay, great.
I will promote him into the meeting. One moment. Good evening, Mr. Bell. You may go ahead and speak.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Jeff, are you there?
Yes. Hi. Actually, it's Deborah Bell.
Okay,
Coming in on Jeff's.
That's fine. Thank you.
Hi.
Okay, what's up?
My concern is about the right-hand turn lane at the corner of Mount Diablo Boulevard and First Street. And there's a Union gas station, and across the street there's the Taco Bell.
Yes.
And at the gas station there, that was as the traffic comes down First Street to make that right turn, the traffic ignores pedestrians. And to the point that I have seen many middle schoolers walking across during the time that they have that the walking light is on. And the traffic totally ignores them and continues to turn right at that corner. So unless you go out in the street, turn around, put your hands up to stop the cars from turning right, many times they'll just ignore the signal there. So it's just a concern of mine.
Very good.
Thank you for bringing that up. And do any commissioners have questions of Deborah?
Well, I have a comment to make. And Deborah is absolutely right, as I walk there from time to time. And I have to yell, actually. That's what I have to do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, Stella.
Yeah, I just want to thank Deborah for the observation and just comment that that is actually a crossing that's really high frequency for the middle schoolers, because they come up the First Street multi-use path, and then they continue up First Street by the Taco Bell, and then cross over, and they're pretty much heading to the shopping mall, the Whole Foods, and then some of the other stores there.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, so I appreciate the comment, and I will be bringing this up later. So thank you.
Do I need to stay for the meeting or?
Nope.
Okay.
Unless you want to hear what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. But thank you, thank you for raising that issue.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And I also want you to know that I did submit this to your, to the City of Lafayette website with a map and all that was, so it's, I put it in writing as well.
Great. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, there's no other hands raised, so let's move on to item 6, new business. And prefacing this item, I want to just say that I'm very excited about this meeting tonight, because it's both a time to reflect on the stuff we've been starting and the things we got going on this next year. This will be the basis, I guess, of our presentation to the City Council joint meeting upcoming. And
Yeah.
so keep that in mind if later on we can discuss what things y'all think should be added or modified. All right. So Patrick, I'm wondering if you want to take us through this.
Sure. So I'll just go through the staff memo, the staff report that I provided. So it starts off with a list of accomplishments from 2022. So it acknowledges that there was no dedicated staff person for the first half of 2022, but there was still a lot of work that was completed. The first half of the year, school safety was still a priority for this commission, and is the period of time when the series of tool reports were worked on. Many of you participated in field visits and participated in those collective walkabouts. And Tool came apparently several times to this commission as well as to City Council. So many of the recommendations were thanks to this group, as well as I believe input on the list of near-term and medium-term priorities. And so I'm just going to pause because I'm hoping that if I'm missing something as part of the story, please chime in. Local road safety plan was kicked off in 2022, and Commissioners Greg Brown and Stella Witherspoon have volunteered to sit on the task force. Thank you very much. In addition, both commissioners volunteered to work as facilitators and note takers as part of the December 2022 open house, public open house. So thank you again for that. In 2022, there were 2 task force meetings that were held, and the third was held just a few hours ago. Great work had been started and kicked off in 2022 on that plan. The Lamorinda Action Plan, the CCTA regional transportation plan has been ongoing for a few years now, but this commission reviewed the draft version as well as invited CCTA and their consulting team to provide some additional comments that were reflected in the most recently released draft version of the action plan. Any comments? Nope. Local design issues. So there are a few locations in specifically that I was aware of, including a really good discussion about modifications to the roundabout at Olympic and Pleasant Hill at one of the 2022 meetings, as well as discussion about Pleasant Hill Road. I think that was more specific to Matt Luttrop's design initiative that's going on right now. Development review. So these were our large scale residential developments, proposed residential developments that I'm aware of one that has come to this commission at 1001 Oak Hill Road. There was a joint meeting between Transcirc Planning Commission and Design Review Committee in a commission, I believe, in November of this year.
Yes.
Proposed grant opportunities. So there was good discussion about 3 projects in particular, 2 that were where applications were proposed as part of the OBAG process, the School Street project and the Pleasant Hill Road multi-purpose pathway project. So that's Matt's project that would then turn into construction. And then more recently, a TDA grant. Actually, this I think was 2023. But the proposed TDA grant for the walkway along the west side of Pleasant Hill Road between the school and the Lafayette Ridge staging area. And then we did want to acknowledge Stella's work on GPAC as well. Acknowledging that you have volunteered for that very busy committee and provide monthly updates to us.
Mhm.
Thank you, Stella.
You're welcome.
Any
right.
comments or Carl?
So far, this is great. And of course, if there are items that the commissioners want to highlight in things we've done already, if you don't think of them now, then for sure send Patrick a note this week so he can incorporate it into the session when we go to the city council.
I got a question.
Yep.
It was School Street on 22 or 21?
22.
So that also, we implemented all these changes.
What I was referring to the OBAG grant, you might be referring to the Quick Build project that Mike implemented in the summer. Well, that was also implemented in 2022 in the summer.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, school safety.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lynn?
Yeah, I was wondering if you would enlighten me further on the how to explain the Matt Lothrop's program, whatever he was trying to install. Maybe he's still continuing, but could you give us a little more information on the bike lanes?
You're talking about on Pleasant Hill Road? I'm sorry, Lynn, what, Pleasant Hill Road?
Pleasant Hill Road, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the money he has is for design, not for construction. So he held a workshop, a public workshop in the summer, and there were lots of notes that came back about the traffic study that had been done by his consulting team. That team has recently provided an updated draft version, and I believe Matt is planning on holding another open house this winter.
So slowly.
It's a complex project, but Matt's also really busy with other projects as well.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, you want to talk about what's 2023 work plan?
Right. So in looking at the flow chart at the end of the report, I tried to match the format that my predecessors had put together, just so it looked more familiar to you. And I tried to break up the anticipated projects into a couple different categories.
You're talking about this?
That is what I'm talking about.
So
Yes.
would you mind sharing it on the screen in case
Sure.
people haven't seen that? Thank you. And you might zoom in a little.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I saw.
Let's see.
Great.
Tell me when it looks good.
Yep.
Okay. So so I tried to categorize projects into different categories. The first being special projects currently underway. So again, the local road safety plan is an ongoing initiative. Consultant team from Tool came and spoke with you 2 weeks ago. And as you're aware, this plan will come back one more time to Transcirc. for comment. One more task force meeting as well, and then it will eventually go to City Council for adoption. So I've got the, the estimated time frame by quarter here as well, and then level of staff effort, which of course is subjective. Item B is the Burton Valley Pilot Project follow-up. So as this group is aware, this is a plan, a school safety project that was initiated around Burton Valley Elementary. I believe it came to this commission probably a number of times in 2021. Where a number of desired or traffic calming measures were debated among the community and among this commission. There were a number of measures that were implemented as a one-year pilot project, which was January to January. So just received the draft version of the evaluation memo, which will then go back to the community at a community meeting to discuss the evaluation of how well the measures worked against the goals that were set against that project, with the community ultimately deciding what will go and what will stay. La Miranda Action Plan, I've listed it here, but I am not sure if this topic is going to come back to Transcirc again before adoption by LPMC and then CCTA. The Olympic roundabout design. So Mike and Matt have been initiating, for those of you who have been there very recently, some paint and post kind of quick build projects to narrow the width of the travel lanes. And will initiate a lane removal on southbound Pleasant Hill Road towards the roundabout to see how well that helps to reduce speeds, improve safety at the crosswalks. And then the larger project would be this summer as part of a repaving effort. So I would expect that Mike and Matt are going to be evaluating the short-term pilot project and then determining what will get built as part of the construction project in the summer.
Could you show me, excuse me?
Yeah.
Yeah, would you explain what you meant when you stated, you mentioned that you weren't so sure it was coming back to all components of the
La Miranda Action Plan?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess that would do. Yeah.
So the timeline for that is that it's going to go back to LPMC on March 6th for approval. Staff will, at each of the three La Miranda jurisdictions, are looking at the revised final draft report that has just been recently released. It is on our website, but LPMC is going to consider this in early March and send it off to CCTA.
May I please ask, where is our own input?
Your input
I've hardly seen any input from us, very little.
Well, CCTA and PlaceWorks came here, and it was a very long meeting where this commission provided their input.
I remember that, but that's not stable. It's not a stable situation, and who knows what the feedback has been to these people. I've heard all kinds of things, like St. Mary's Road is going to be a route of regional significance, and not only Moraga Road, but St. Mary's Road, Moraga Road, all kinds of, I have no idea where the leverage is, where what we're asking. I don't know what we're asking. I don't know what we're expecting to get.
I can forward this group the link to the updated version of the report. There's also a memo that CCTA put out that describes the comments that were received and what edits they've made as a result.
I would like to know in plenty of time so that we can get our licks in.
Okay.
Because I don't think that we are, I don't think we're responsible to have to be required to suddenly, how to explain, how we are going to meld all of this into a final picture when we really haven't had all of these steps to begin with.
Okay.
This is something very new to us.
So I'm not sure that I'm tracking on the. Okay, let's put it this way. We saw that. We saw the Loma Action Plan. Refresh my memory if it also went to the City Council.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me, Carl. It did go to City Council, I believe in December.
Right. And so then they approved it and they passed it on. And the structure of the Lumber Action Plan is that all the three entities have to agree and approve it. Is that right?
That's correct. And I do want to correct what you said. Council didn't approve it. It was there for comment.
Correct. You're right.
Yeah.
Correct. All right. So
Makes me feel better.
right. So from my perspective, there's not really an opportunity for this to come back to us and then go back to the City Council and then go back. I mean, that's not within the time frame. And it seems like during our meeting and also the City Council had that opportunity to make changes. I think it's been fully vetted for what needs to get done for this year.
There was also a public open house as well in, I believe, November that was held just for La Miranda.
Yeah.
But we don't even know that our city is not even fully aware of what is going to happen if our the program, what do you want to call it? The policing of our roads are going to be made into something considerably what they weren't.
Well, I think, Patrick, I think your offer to send us the links to the current document as well as the last set of changes. I think, Lynn, and if it's such a concern that we should read through it, you should read through it, and I'll read through it tomorrow. And you're going to have to send Patrick. I guess Patrick, would you be the correct person to funnel comments?
I would be, yes.
Okay, so I think that's our route forward on this changes would be, Lynn, if you have specific things you want to have raised, then get them to Patrick and see if he can raise them with Teresa at the meeting.
Now, is Teresa the only person who stands between us and routes of regional significance?
Teresa is the representative on the Lafayette representative on LPMC, along with her counterparts from Moraga and Orinda. And that is the body that would recommend to approve this plan to CCTA.
This is crazy.
Is this the same process that it's been in the past, though, isn't it?
No.
Yes.
No, not in the slightest. We have not had this before. It's true.
I think we're going to have to cut this particular item off, but Patrick, please send that information to all of us, and I'll make an effort to go through that first thing in the morning, and we can exchange emails or talk about it, and then we'll get comments to Patrick. Okay.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So let's go. So I'd like to. Okay, let's get back to the ongoing. I guess is that where we left off? Ongoing program.
Ongoing programs. So these are just kind of projects that are ongoing and so I'm not able to predict when many of these topics will come to this group. So grant application projects. So as grants come to me, or I'm made aware of grant opportunities appropriate for projects in Lafayette, I will bring them to this committee, as I did with the TDA grant. Development review, again, these are applications that come in for development. Not able to predict what will come in and what will rise to the need to bring it to TCC. Pleasant Hill Road multi-purpose pathway. So this is Matt Luttrop's project that I just mentioned. So again, Matt is expecting to hold another public open house this winter, and has committed to bringing it to this group after that meeting. The school safety near-term implementation. So again, this group helped to craft the priority list of short-term and medium-term projects. And so I would expect that, you know, Mike is implementing them as he is able. But if there are any projects that there's unanticipated trade-offs or other kind of design questions, we can come back and bring that to this group. And then TARS as well, the transportation action requests. It's been actually very quiet on that front, but again, ongoing as needed.
Great.
The next category are anticipated new tasks and initiatives. So these are things that are on the radar and are likely to become projects, but aren't quite yet. So the first is the School Street Class 1 multi-use facility project. This is the Class 1 facility on School Street and Topper Lane and St. Mary's. The city was successful in getting federal funding as well as OBAG funding on that project. So we are expecting, you can see the timeline here, we expect not to kick this off in the planning and design phase until the third quarter of this year. That will give us some time to get the funding in place, conduct a survey, but also we're short on staff time as well.
Can I interrupt for a moment, please?
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that so the commission received input on basically the St. Mary's Road drop off, which is basically it's part of the whole Topper Street. I'll just say brouhaha that has been developing, partly as a let me say it differently. I was very happy that you were able to get the OBAG 3 application in, but there are concerns in the community about Topper Lane modifications. And so we received some public comment about this. And I just want to make sure that the item J is the correct location for discussion analysis of Topper Lane as well as the St. Mary's drop-off. Is that right?
No.
Okay.
So St. Mary's drop-off was related to item P.
Okay, because that's great, because I wasn't sure how that worked into one of those items.
Yeah, no, that's specific to P.
Okay, because after you're done with this, I want to thank you for mentioning that. After you're all done, I'd like to talk about that. So
okay.
Yeah.
So item K is a traffic calming policy update. So the city has a traffic calming policy But I'm hoping to make it better aligned with the local road safety plan that's underway. And so I do want to take a fresh look at that policy, and expect to kick something off in the second quarter. Olympic Boulevard corridor plan. So this is something that's new to me and to you all. So you may be familiar with a plan that was done in 2016, maybe 2017. It was a multi-jurisdictional conceptual design, planning and design effort from along Olympic Boulevard, roughly from Release Station to the Iron Horse Trail. And recently CCTA has expressed interest in taking a fresh look at that plan, and leading again an update to that plan that may result in construction. So again, that's for ped and bike safety along Olympic Boulevard, but it would go through Lafayette, the county, and then Walnut Creek. The status is unknown. This is something that CCTA has indicated that they are would like to kick off this year. Item M is the Pleasant Hill Road West Side Walkway at Spring Hill. So this is the TDA project that I brought to this group recently, January. So that TDA application was due last week. And so with any luck, we will be successful and will then move into the planning and design phase later this year. I believe we are informed in the summer about that decision. The downtown specific plan update, I believe, it's a planning department led initiative, and this is something that has been discussed for some time now as needing a refresh. And so transportation will be a big part of that refresh. And so I'm looking forward to that process kicking off again, hopefully later this year. So the final category are desired initiatives, and these are my own desired initiatives. So would love to get comments and feedback as well from this group. So the first thing is a Safe Routes to School program in Lamorinda. And so typically, this is not a city-led initiative. This is typically led by, CCTA, or I'm looking at a very successful, holistic Safe Routes to School program in Marin County. And so TAM, the Transportation Authority of Marin, CCTA's counterpart in Marin, funds a very holistic Safe Routes program throughout the county for schools that are interested in participating. They've hired a consultant that leads that program. City is a stakeholder, or the cities in that case, because it is a county-wide initiative. I used to work for that consulting team that ran and managed the TAM's Marin Safe Routes to School program, so I'm aware it's been in place for 20 years now. And so I'm able to see how far the needle has moved in terms of shifting kids' commutes, reducing congestion, participation from school communities. It's really been inspiring, and I really am hoping that something like this can be kicked off in Lamorinda. With that said, I understand that CCTA is getting more funding to expand programming, Safe Routes programming in Lamorinda with forget the name of the group, 511 Contra Costa, and then
Diablo Street Smarts.
Yeah, thank you. Street Smarts Diablo, yeah, or Diablo Street Smarts. This isn't, like I said, kind of a city initiative, but one that I'm really lobbying to get increased funding in La Marinda. And then the final item P are designed for potential future projects. So one thing that I've noticed is that Lafayette traditionally has not kicked off planning and design phases for desired projects until we have funding in place. And we don't have a whole lot of staff to work on that. So it makes sense. But at the same time, what I'd love to do is target some key projects that we can kickstart so that when grant opportunities are made available, we're better positioned for that funding. And so this initiative is subject to funding in our CIP so that we can get a little bit of funding to kick off, again, key projects and get them to a certain point where we can then turn to grants as they are made available to us. So in my staff report, I mentioned a few potential projects, one being the St. Mary's Street drop-off and sidewalk extension adjacent to Stanley Middle School. Another one is a refresh of the East Bay Mud pathway. There's some very complex segments of that pathway that have not been built because of extreme topography and other challenges. Continuation of that along Deer Hill Road, missing sidewalk segments in some of our downtown streets in downtown. So there's a number of different projects that that could be prioritized. Again, subject to getting funding to be able to kick something like that off.
Okay.
So that helps.
No, this is great. Let's take a little breather here for a second and give the opportunity for commissioners to ask clarifying questions or provide comments to Patrick on this work program that he's been going through. Greg, you got a hand up?
Yeah, thank you, Carl. Patrick, thank you for putting this together. I think, not only is it a good summary of the work of the commission over the last year, but also a very ambitious agenda for 2023. I did have just a couple of clarifying questions. One on the School Street project, that's J. I did see today that CCTA came out with an announcement about funding of a bunch of different projects. I didn't see that one specifically mentioned, but you indicated there is funding for that.
There is funding for that project, yes.
Okay. That's great. And then another item, and I don't know whether we want to specifically include it. I know we've talked about it in years past, and you've touched on it in a number of areas here, both along Olympic, Pleasant Hill, and then when you talked about the viaduct, is the walkways plan, which we haven't, it has not been updated in 7 or 8 years. But there are a number of walkways that are anticipated to be looked at here with future projects. So I don't know if we wanted to put that out as a specific thing to address, or if that's a lower priority in the coming year.
Sorry, Greg, was that a question for me or the commission?
I think both.
Both.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask it. Wasn't the last discussion we had on the walkways plan, the outcome of the takeaway that it was going to be incorporated in at some point the GPAC process, or am I not remembering that correctly?
I thought it was maybe going to be addressed to some degree through maybe the LRSP.
Okay.
So I don't know.
No, and that's why I was confused. So
Yeah.
So Patrick, to respond to Greg's question, is there what's your view on how and when would the walkways plan be revisited?
I am envisioning the how would be, we would need money, we would hire a consultant to do a gap analysis, and work with the public to prioritize those gaps that are still there in the walkways plan. I'm envisioning, but I'm not 100% correct, that some of this might be considered as part of the downtown specific plan. I mean, more specifically, the gaps in the pedestrian network that are located downtown. So that portion may be addressed through the downtown specific plan, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I didn't research this. I thought that this commission reviewed or went through the walkways plan within the last year. Wasn't that the case?
Maybe a year and a half or
Year and a half? At
yeah,
some
I
point
can't remember if it was pre-COVID or post-COVID.
At some point we did that. We'll have to look back for the history on that then.
I think the latest official version is maybe 2015 or 16.
Yeah, 15 is the one that's posted on the website.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's several years old.
All right, I'll dig through my stuff later. Sorry. Greg, did you get your questions answered? Okay, Stella?
Yeah, thanks. I have a couple questions. Should I just go through them, or do you want to try to do this in some order?
No,
Carl?
just do it.
Okay, so I was wondering if you could update Patrick on the funding for the school street, because I know there was the federal earmark from DeSaulnier, and then it sounds like also the OBAG funds were awarded. And so how much is coming from each of those sources?
So the federal earmark was $3.1 million. And then I am now working with MTC to reduce the amount of OBAG funding that would come to fill the gap, right, between what we need and what the federal earmark is.
Okay, so the request, the application to OBAG was for a certain amount, but then some of that came from DeSaulnier, and so then there might be a gap to
Yes,
fill.
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Let's see, I'm looking at your desired initiatives. You have mentioned here a completed pathway along Quant Road. And I know I had been in communication, I think, with Matt about this, and I thought he said that there were plans, there's money sourced and plans to construct soon-ish.
I believe you are correct in that he is talking about the eastern half of Quant, but I believe the western half, that from Pleasant Hill to, I forget the name of the cross street, is still, there's no design for it.
Okay, yeah, Del Arroyo, I think, is
Yes,
the,
right. Thank you.
the
Yes.
intersection.
Mhm.
Okay, so then this completed pathway along Quant Road desired initiative is to look at that Del Arroyo west to Pleasant Hill Road.
Yes.
Okay, great. That's really helpful to know, and I'm encouraged by that. I guess I'll just say, since we have your ear right now, that that is a segment that I think could use a decent amount of analysis because of that tight S curve, as well as just the number of Spring Hill School drop-offs that happen there. It's a pretty congested little spot that, with some design, maybe we could make some good improvements.
So I also just want to remind you, Stella, and maybe you're aware of this, is that this list is just my own kind of brainstorm of things that I've been made aware of in the past 6 months, and it's doesn't represent a priority yet.
Okay.
And that we wouldn't be able to take them all on. So I would
Sure.
look to this commission to help. Again, if I am successful in getting funding in the next CIP, to kick off a design process to help prioritize that list. And maybe most certainly there are things that are missing from this list, I'm sure.
Okay, now understood. Well, I'm glad this is on the short list right now, but I understand that it might become a longer list and need to be prioritized. So that is really helpful. And so then, just to confirm though, then the patch from Del Arroyo toward the pipeline on Quant is planned to be rehabilitated sometime in the next year or so.
I believe so, but can I confirm with Matt?
Yeah, that would be great.
Or-
Yeah, because
Yeah, okay.
I think I'd heard maybe in conjunction with the rebuilding of the Pleasant Hill Road between Release Valley and Spring Hill pathway, which this commission heard 2 years ago, maybe.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay, yeah, that would be great to just know. Let me see. I've got a couple other questions on here. I think I saw in the city calendar that the Olympic roundabout will be a topic of discussion tomorrow in a
Mhm.
public meeting
Mhm.
to discuss summer work. Okay,
That's
I
right.
have some questions about the crosswalk improvements, but I'll go to that meeting and then find out there. Let's see. You'd mentioned the TARs, that you hadn't been getting very many of them. Are you, when you do get them, are they just kind of going into a holding pen, or are they being considered and analyzed?
Well, so, I mean, I would say, like I said, it's been very quiet the past few months. Most of them are, can you put a speed hump on my street? And what I've said is consistent with the direction that we've gotten from council is we want to do the LRSP process and reconsider the traffic calming program so that it's a data-driven process and we are able to better align that policy with the LRSP. So other TARs, I've just gone ahead and made changes without bringing it to this commission. So, striping issues, some signal tweaks, things like that. So there's nothing, there are no TARs where people have come and said, oh, I want to appeal this to Transcirc.
Okay, I see. That's helpful. Let's see, you mentioned this, and maybe I just need clarification. The Safe Routes to School programming. So I'm glad that that's on a desired initiative list. That is really, really very good. I know that CCTA had submitted an OBAG grant of their own for Safe Routes to School countywide. Do you know if that was successful?
I believe it was successful, and so that should result in an expansion of programming in Lamorinda.
Okay.
I don't have the details yet on how that's going to play out. Again, the city is not usually involved in that. It's more the school district and then the groups that I had mentioned. But again, what I'd love to do is help to launch or lobby for a more holistic education, encouragement, engineering, task forces at schools, getting a whole bunch of stakeholders involved in a Safe Routes program in Lamorinda. So there is work happening on that front from CCTA, and so it's really good news. I just don't want to not be lobbying for more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, understand. Okay, so then once the CCTA, I guess, starts to communicate some of their vision for a countywide program is when you'll try to hook into maybe spearhead a Lamorinda effort.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. That is really very, very good. I think that's my questions on the timeline or work plan. Thank you.
Great. All right, Vianney.
Yes. Hey, Patrick, I have one remark and one question. On School Street from St. Mary's to the school, is there going to be a walkway?
On School Street, yes. School
On
Street.
the east side of School Street, from St. Mary's all the way down to the school, to the middle school.
You're talking about Topper Lane?
And no, Topper Lane is parallel to part of School Street goes all the way to St. Mary's, doesn't it?
Right, but I think you would mean it would be on the north side, not the east side.
No, it would be the east side. It would be because School Street is perpendicular to St. Mary's, goes all the way down to the school. And there is no walkway or anything like that. It's very dangerous for the kids. We were talking of turning it into one-way for quite a while. And so if it's not going to be a one-way, there should be at least a walkway for the people coming down from St. Mary's all the way down to the school.
I think it's, well, the name changes at the curve. So School Street runs perpendicular to Moraga Road,
Correct.
and then the road curves or kind of does a 90 degree, and then
Yes.
perpendicular to St. Mary's is called Topper Lane.
Oh, is it Topper Lane? I thought it was parallel to that.
Yes.
Okay.
So what's included there is, yes. And so when the process kicked off, the planning and design process, it would be a Class 1 facility on School Street where the Brookfield project is today on the north side of School Street.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
Some sort of facility on Topper Lane, and then a sidewalk on St. Mary's between Birdhaven and Topper.
Okay. Yes, but then when you make your right onto, you call it Topper Lane then, or? Oh, I thought it was School Street all the way. But anyway, is there going to be a walkway from St. Mary's all the way down to the school?
Correct.
Oh, okay. That's in the works, right?
Well, no, not in the works, but that's the funding that the city has received and will be part of the planning and design process that's kicked off later this year.
So there won't be a one-way street then?
That's not envisioned, no.
Oh, that's too bad. And then the other question, the other thing is that is to fix the sound on the light that is next to B of A. Is it B of A? Yes, that goes south onto Moraga Road from the Safeway parking lot all the way down to that one does not work. There is no sound, and it's very annoying. I cannot see when it's green for pedestrians.
So for that, you should be sending a note to Patrick and or
Okay.
putting in a there's a transportation request
Right.
on the web, but
I thought that.
that's that kind of outside of the work scope of this.
So yeah, if something's not working, just email myself or Mike.
Okay.
or Matt.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Is that it, Vianney?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Stella?
Yeah, I had just one other question. I noticed in this work program that I don't see Vision Zero mentioned, and I wonder what is the plan for a Vision Zero action plan for 2023?
Well, that's essentially the local road safety plan.
Oh, okay. So whatever comes out of the LRSP then will be the vision for improving safety.
Yes.
Okay, so in terms of an action plan that has metrics, goals, and also more of the tactical cooperation between entities, is that not something that we're going to do as a city?
Well, that'll be a deliverable as part of the LRSP. Under each emphasis area, which we talked about today, distracted driving or whatever, there will be a list of programs and projects assigned to different people with timelines. So
Okay,
it is setting out what the city is supposed to do to address safety in Lafayette.
okay, I see. Yeah, I guess I've seen in some cities, they've actually come forward with some very specific goals, like reduce or eliminate all fatalities by 2030 or reduced by a certain percentage. So that's what I'm thinking of in terms of broad goals. And then some of the tactical parts for maybe larger cities involve collaborations between departments that maybe didn't work together before, but who really could to achieve the goals. So are we just too small to be looking at those areas?
No, but we haven't gotten to that point in the plan's development.
I see. Okay. But
Yeah.
then you envision that that will be upcoming for the LRSP.
Yeah,
Okay.
the
Thank you.
LRSP is a Vision Zero action plan. It's just written. The state's very prescriptive about what goes into an LRSP and what you need to apply for funding for. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I gathered that when I had reviewed some of the consultant proposals. I just noted that some of them, like Tool Design, also does Vision Zero action plans. So in a sense, they're two different products that they will put out for bid. So that's where I was just not clear about the distinction, but I understand that we're going to try to stake out some space in the LRSP
Mhm.
for implementation of Vision Zero goals and
Yes.
programs.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Vianney, do you have another question, or do you need to?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
I wonder, is there a list of abbreviations somewhere of what we're all talking about?
A list of, I'm sorry, what?
Of all the abbreviations that we talk
So,
about?
Like,
Oh.
You know, with the spelled out next to it.
Well, I try to do that in my staff reports, right? I try if I'm Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but it would be
doing
just
something LRSP, then I try to define what that is in my staff reports.
Yeah, but I'm more questioning whether there should be some kind of an at a glance list of these, so that we know exactly. We can forget for him.
Okay.
Would be nice to have.
There has been a list of abbreviations in some projects that we have brought to this commission. I tell you what, Vianney, why don't I dig those up, and then I'll send them to Patrick, and
Okay.
then if it's appropriate after we discuss it, we can put that on the website somewhere.
That would be very nice. That would
Okay.
be very helpful. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, I've got one question, and then we're going to go to public comment. Back to item P as in Peter, the work item designed for potential future projects. We had briefly talked about this once, and I wasn't sure. Do you need to ask the city, because the next year's budget process is going to be developed soon, right? And should you ask for money for design to be put into the budget, or is it already there? In other words, you talk about we should get basically shovel-ready plans, not quite to that extent. Let's call them 90% plans, so that when a grant opportunity comes up, you can jump on it, right? So do you need to have money set aside for that? And I know most of that would normally be done with staff time, but if we're short on staff, should we ask for some money so that we can bring in, consultants to help do any of this design work?
Yes, and if we are hiring consultants, we can get more of those projects done, right? And so it's a matter of working with Mike to identify priority projects and desired amounts of funding for that.
Right. So I think you should just keep that in mind as the budget process starts up again. All right, let's go to public comment. So there's quite a few attendees. If any of you would like to make comments about what you've heard tonight, then please raise your hand.
The first speaker is Dory Olivero. I'll promote her to the meeting now. And Dory will be followed by Jennifer Paul. Good evening, Dory. Please unmute yourself.
Okay, hi. This is my computer. That's probably why you have Dory Olivero, but actually my husband, David Olivero, will be speaking this evening.
Good evening, Patrick, Chair and Commissioners. Thanks for listening to concerns here regarding the traffic congestion around Stanley School. And this is basically speaking in regards to the expanded sidewalk and drop-off zone on Stanley Middle School on St. Mary's Road. I urge you to make this a very high priority project and find funding as soon as possible. This has been talked about for years and years in the city, and we've lived here for 30 years and nothing's actually been done about it. So it's great that you guys have this under consideration. An expanded walkway and drop off at St. Mary's Road is crucial for improving the safety and relieving congestion for the vehicles, pedestrians, bikes, and scooters around the entire Stanley campus during school drop-offs. It is crucial for taking the burden off School Street and Topper Lane during the peak times. This, together with the School Street Class 1 multi-use facility and other projects to consider, such as increased bus usage, staggered school start times, lowering speed limits, and other ideas, is essential in creating a safe school zone and habitable neighborhood. Perhaps the OBAG 3 funds awarded to School Street Park project could be rescoped and thus diverted to a St. Mary's Road multi-use walkway and school drop-off project. This project's been needed for a long, long time, and it'd be great if you guys could do your best to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions for the speaker? All right, well, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
All right,
The next speaker is Jennifer Paul.
Hi, Patrick and Commission. Thank you all so much. This is very exciting to hear all the progress that's been made and all the things that are happening. And Patrick, I'm super excited about looking at a plan for safe routes to school. I'll throw myself out there if I can be of any help. I appreciate Commissioner Witherspoon for suggesting or bringing up the Quant walkway. That is something that I have been working on since the 2013 report, which is now 10 years old. And I think that is a perfect example of just, unfortunately, things that we have these great ideas. And then, as you're saying, sometimes we don't have the funding and it's not shovel ready. And I just want to throw that out there for the umpteenth time that I truly believe this pathway, it's not just because it's my neighborhood. My kids are almost all out of the house at this point. I started this when they were 1 and 3 when I moved here. So it's not about me anymore. It really isn't. This is about just now that I've seen with the floods, Brione's lot was closed down. And I have pictures I can send the commission of just all of Quant Road and Candy and Quant Court being flooded with kids and parents, which is phenomenal. But it doesn't work safely. And so if we're going to look at Quant, as much as I want to see Del Arroyo down, it really has to be not penny wise, pound foolish. I'd like to see the whole thing redone. So that is my comment. And my one question is, where can we find, is there a place where the current projects for all of the safe route to school that we've been working on, kind of see what's happening with them? Like, I'm curious, for instance, in my neck of the woods, looking at the trap lane, or the slip lane, for instance. Thank you.
any questions for Jennifer? Comments? All right, thank you. That was a good point on status of the projects. We'll come back to that at some point.
The next speaker is Michelle.
Hi, good evening. Am I connected?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi there. Hi there. Thank you. For those of you who don't know or may not know, we are highly opposed to the inclusion of Topper Lane in the scope for the Class 1 facility on School Street. I'm a resident of Topper Lane, and we're opposed to it for a multitude of reasons, one of which is we just simply don't feel it will improve the safety for anybody walking on the street, because it does nothing to mitigate the congestion or the number of cars traveling on our small lane to get to School Street. A second reason, of course, is there are very few students that actually walk or bike down Topper Lane to get to school. There is a small group of students on Birdhaven Court who, of course, need access to the trail, don't have it. They currently use Topper Lane, but they can use Hope one court over in order to get to the trail to get to school safely, or they can walk along St. Mary's Road to Avalon, which takes 15 seconds longer than going down Topper Lane. I just walked that yesterday. Anyway, therefore, we do think it makes sense to focus on a drop-off zone on St. Mary's Road that could accommodate the large volume of cars that currently feel the need to use the street. Topper Lane is a cut through to the School Street drop-off, and to give some semblance of organization to the cars that currently line up on St. Mary's Road and feel the need to make risky maneuvers into traffic to navigate turning around after dropping off their students. I have some questions. When will you be conducting the survey for considering a design for Topper Lane as part of this School Street project? We understand that you're going to be starting planning and design Q3. The survey is coming before that. So when exactly will that survey be happening? And what is the current plan, if any, to collect data on Topper Lane, including vehicle, bike, and pedestrian volumes before design work starts in Q3? This was something that, of course, we discussed in a meeting offline, and we're given notice that it would happen before any plans were actually made to include a path on Topper in the design.
Keep going.
I have one more question. Can the city fund a drop-off zone or some sort of organized zone on St. Mary's Road along the south side of the Stanley Field, where there's the dirt parking currently in that area, or is that school property and are they the ones responsible for basically bearing the cost or the burden of?
Sorry, keep
That's
going.
it.
Yeah. Okay.
Those bells are
Yeah. No, sorry.
distracting.
No, they're real.
So-
So just to recap, you were asking about the St. Mary's Road drop-off zone. Is it school property or is it not? And was there a end part of that question?
Yeah, basically, if the school is to decide to sort of take some of the burden off of the surrounding residents and surrounding streets and help to mitigate congestion in the area by designing a drop-off zone, part of the zone could potentially take place along the dirt parking that's presently there on St. Mary's Road. And I'm just wondering, is that city property or school property? And, whose funds would be used for that portion of a potential drop-off zone on St. Mary's Road? So thanks.
Any questions from the commissioners for Michelle? Thank you for those comments, and that's we'll have to delve into this, and I'm not sure if we're going to do that tonight, but we'll keep those questions in mind. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I see no other hands raised at this time.
All right, last call for public input. Okay.
Patricia Kennedy Risk has her hands raised. I
Okay.
will promote her.
Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
We can see you and hear you. Thank you.
Okay, good. Good evening, commissioners and Patrick. I would just like to echo the letter I submitted. I know that has become part of this meeting, to say that I would really love if you would put your support behind having a second drop-off at Stanley Middle School. The traffic congestion on School Street is pretty bad. And that's whether you're coming from Moraga Road down School Street at pickup time, or coming down Topper Road onto School Street, because everybody's trying to turn into the one parking lot that is there, since now all the parking is gone on School Street. And it's just creating havoc, more havoc than there used to be. So there is all that space. I counted one weekend, there were 42 cars parked on St. Mary's Road by the back of Stanley. Of course, it was parents who were supporting their kids' games there on the field. And I believe we could make better use of that space. And that would really help people coming from other neighborhoods to be able to have a more formalized second drop off. It would take some of the congestion off of School Street. And also, if there was a more formalized pathway there, that would really benefit the kids who don't have access to the trail, which is just a few on Birdhaven, but also the ones who cross over from, I can't remember the name of the streets offhand, but they would have a walkway and then straight on to Stanley. And I know, Patrick, you did mention earlier that you are in negotiations with MTC as regards how much funding is needed. Possibly part of those negotiations could be using part of the funds that they did approve recently, the 3.4 million, into doing a project on as a second drop off on St. Mary's Road. Thank you.
Do the commissioners have any questions for Patricia? All right. Thank you for your letter, and also thank you for speaking tonight.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Jamie Hession.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi there. So I was just listening to the last couple questions that were brought to you about Topper Lane. And I was just wondering, like, you know, you're doing this for the people on Birdhaven, apparently. And I'm just wondering why those people on Birdhaven can't serve to Hope, and why do they have to get there as a bird flies? You know, everyone else has to travel a lot further than they would have to travel just by going around to Hope to school. I mean, what's up with this red carpet down Topper Lane? I know that when I first met you, Carl, there after that accident, and you told me that there was a family on Birdhaven that really needed to get to Stanley, and that's why you were going to do this walkway. And I'm like, first I was like, oh yeah, well, of course. But then I'm thinking, wow, who is this family? And maybe, I don't know, is there some sort of agenda with some of the people that have come forward? I don't know, but that person might think that they should rather walk around to Hope than walk down the middle of Topper Lane. As some of my friends who still have middle school age children say, there is a woman with her 2 kids walking down the center of Topper Lane at peak school hours, And I think she has been identified as the same woman who, Carl, you are accommodating, or this whole panel is accommodating to get to school. So I see it, and everyone else sees the danger in the decisions that you've made by taking out all of that parking over there. And I encourage you to provide a drop-off and pickup zone on St. Mary's Road as soon as possible. You change that grant funding to point to St. Mary's Road. Otherwise, this is absurd. And that is all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Any questions for Jamie? All right. All right, I don't see any other hands raised. Last chance.
No, I see no further hands raised.
Okay. All right, so you can return Jamie to the attendees. Okay, so we're back to kind of discussion among the commissioners about the work plan and also some of the comments. I want to also, responding just broadly, saying that the commission, as part of the site visits, we had walked around Stanley, and with Mike Moran was there for that visit, and we talked and we talked about drop-offs and how necessary they were. And I have been publicly a proponent of a drop-off, but I'm not sure how we would work that into the work plans and get that on a list, because it first came up as part of the school safety around schools. So perhaps, Patrick, I'm going to be calling on you. Perhaps you can talk to two items that were raised by the public. One is, and let me also say, I was made aware that Teresa Geringer, I believe Susan Kendall, Patrick met with several members of the Topper Street community to talk about their concerns regarding the potential pathway, a potential pathway on that street. And I think rather than me mangle it, you may wish to talk about that, Patrick, and tell us, how do we frame up this issue of Topper Lane and the drop-offs? How are these issues going to be worked into the work plans that we've been looking at? And well, let's start with that. Okay, so how is all these issues going to be incorporated in the work plan?
So when the funding is in place and that project is kicked off, currently called the School Street Class 1 Multi-Use Pathway Project, that will kick off a planning process as well. And so that's the point at which we start having conversations with School Street, Topper Lane, St. Mary's, the school community, to get input on the plan, on the project.
When we went through and were talking about the safety around schools projects, there were lists of potential projects that were, some were deemed quick build and others were medium and long range. I don't know if you recall seeing those, or maybe the other commissioners can expound on it. But I guess I have to go back. I have not looked to see whether or not that drop-off zone was listed as medium term or medium priority or something. I guess the question I have is, how do we? Okay, there's two things. I'm jumping around, but Topper Lane pathway was, the city has got a goal of connecting all of the different pathways, right? And it seemed at the time that this was proposed that that might be one way to help accomplish that. When the funding was applied for, my assumption was, hey, if we get the funding, then it'll come back, and then it has to go through all of the design process and also the review process, get public input and everything else. So I want to say, how can we raise the priority, so to speak, of a drop-off zone and the re-examination of Topper pathway? What's the process for that?
Well, for the drop-off zone, it's exactly what I said, which is that we get funding and we can include that as part of the design process, although it would be a separate fund source that can be incorporated into the project. But in terms of reconsideration of the pathway, that'll be done through the planning process.
Okay. Stella?
So there's no way to use the current grant to perform some of the St. Mary's modifications for drop-off?
No, we have a scope that we submitted to MTC, and that's what they approved. So they're giving us money to deliver the scope that we submitted to them.
I see. I guess I just thought I remember from our, I'm sorry.
It's not a slush fund.
Right. Well, I guess what I'm trying to remember, I think, was back at our September meeting with TransCirc, when I think you reported on the CCTA review of the OBAG 3 applications. And I guess I thought at that time it sounded like it was a request for design, not just for construction, and so that there was some wiggle room with respect to what actually was in the design.
The funding was for
Is that-
planning, design, environmental, and construction.
Okay.
Or
And so
a defined project.
I see. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I was looking, Carl, at the tables back from the tool report, and there is formalized pickup drop-off area on St. Mary's Road by paving shoulder area and installing formal path to connect campus. But I believe that one didn't make it into the city council approved route.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken. But, you know, at the same time, the Topper Lane project also wasn't in the city council group. That was approved, I think, back in maybe June, give or take. Or no, April, sorry. So, okay, in any event, that's what I just wanted to clarify, that we don't have the wiggle room right now to make some modifications on St. Mary's. I do think, you know, I'll just say I agree that that is a really important segment, because right now there's no pavement, and there's an area where cars, I think, can pull over, but the kids are walking in the tan bark, et cetera. And so formalizing it and extending the sidewalk from where it terminates at Acampo down to Topper would be a big improvement. Sorry, that is my very loud cat. I'm going to go on mute now.
Okay, so let me ask this a different way. Could we put a St. Mary's drop-off as a desired initiative, or some way to retain visibility of that as a potential project? Or is that part of the safety around schools project? Or that's not quite, but what's your recommendation on how we can get visibility to St. Mary's drop-off?
So that could be made a priority project as part of item P.
Okay.
That's one way to do it.
Okay.
You know, this commission is going to council next, or a week and a half from now, and so that's an opportunity to talk about that project as a priority for this commission, if that's what you choose to do to council.
I think at the time that we had the site visits, one of the things that was discussed was there a possibility of having a second path through the Stanley Park so that students and people coming from the east would have a quicker access to the school? And so I don't know, but it sounds like that's something the school district may not be open to, but that's, I guess, TBD. But from a bigger standpoint, the discussion of parking, like Jamie raised, the issues, or one of the speakers raised, the issue of people parking on School Street and circling and so forth, I think would be great to have a drop-off area on St. Mary's Road. And I think that that would be a very useful, and it seems to me, and I don't have any numbers, but it seems like it wouldn't be that expensive to build out a curb area for cars, but can't tell, right? But I'd like to have that as a called out item under P. So, but see what the other commissioners think. Stella, you have your hand up.
Oh, I do have it just up residually, but I'll just say, since I have the tool report open, I'll say that that item, formalized pickup drop-off area for St. Mary's Road, paving shoulder, installing a formal path to connect to campus, which is SL 30. They put down as planning estimate of 133,800. And I know Mike said that these things are woefully underestimated, but I don't know, maybe $250,000 could get it done.
Okay. Well, having it on as a work item, as a potential project might be worthwhile, just so it can be reexamined. Anything else, Stella, or should we go to Greg?
Nope, go ahead.
Greg?
Yeah, no, Carl, I would support adding it to P, as calling it specifically out. We've heard a lot from the community, both recently and during the tool work about it. And Patrick, I don't know kind of what residual or legacy reports or information there may be, but if it's been around or been an idea for 20, 30 years, there's obviously been some work done, and either some constraints that have been run into, or maybe it's just one that's lost priority. It does appear to be mostly school district property, so obviously it would be a joint project. But all in all, Carl, I would support specifically calling it out for at least further investigation next year.
Okay. All right, Greg. Anything else? All right, Piani, you're up.
Well, we should make sure that land we can use, because that can be used as a drop-off before we do anything.
Say that again.
I think we should find out who owns that part of the land before we do anything.
Well, isn't that would be part of the that'd be part of the project itself, I think, wouldn't it be? Just a surveying?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But
could be surprises. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm sure that Matt or Patrick would. Matt Luttrop or Patrick, someone would have access to the the street plans. Okay, Stella.
Yeah, I just thought I would throw out there that I also think that prioritizing rehabilitation on Quant from Pleasant Hill Road to Del Arroyo would be very, very important for handling the traffic with the Spring Hill School across the street.
Okay.
So I would advocate for putting that on a top of a list for desired initiatives.
Okay, so that sounds great. Any other commissioners? So any other commissioner comments about anything that might be missing or anything that needs to be changed on the work program? Okay. Okay, well, I do want to also ask one more thing. So back to the question that Michelle had asked about the Topper Lane surveys and traffic counts and all that. is that type of work covered by the grant that we've got? In other words, is the survey work and is that something that you are going to start doing? And if so, at what time? Does that make sense?
Yes, it is something we would have to do, and we don't have a timeline.
Okay. Okay. All right, so I don't have any other questions or comments. So if I can summarize, and if Patrick, if as far as I can see, I think that the work program looks good. It's if the commissioners have asked that under item P, if you could specifically call out the Quant project and also the St. Mary's Road drop off as a project. I think that would be helpful or would be desirable. Does that make sense? And then I did also want to follow up on the first speaker, Deborah, talking about the Mount Diablo Boulevard. I should call it this way: First Street at Mount Diablo Boulevard. Does that apparently she sent in communication or a TAR? I'm not sure. Would that be really part of the downtown specific update project, or would that be a good place to consider that?
She had mentioned that she provided it on the web survey that was part of the LRSP.
Okay.
So that could be made part of the downtown specific plan or the LRSP.
I'm just apocryphal. I've heard other people mention that same concern, and so
Yeah.
I just wondered at what point we can get, visibility on that as an issue. Probably the same with the intersection of Mount Diablo Boulevard at St. Mary's Road, when people are taking right-hand turns on the red light when the pedestrian light's on. Both of those might be something in some projects. Somehow we look at one of the no right turn, arrows that have a line through it that might be activated with a pedestrian crosswalks signal. So I don't know how we can get some action on that, but I'd like to include that in either downtown or as a item under P. I'm up for your suggestion on that.
I can bring this back as a specific item,
Okay.
talk about different options.
Yeah. Okay. That'd be great.
And Carl, I'd also just note that, in the development of the LRSP, no right turns are at least some of the potential safety measures that are being presented.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to keep that up. To add that. Yeah, Stella?
Yeah, no, I just have a request, not necessarily for this work program, but to update, for Patrick to update and Mike to update the schools projects progress. I think it is. There's a page that that has all the different projects that were approved and then whether they're complete. I think it said November was the last update, and so if there's anything that's happened since then, it would be great to know. And then I guess also, since you're looking toward, I think, starting to do some work, maybe when the school's out of session, if there's any kind of, idea about when, or even if it's just a spring 2023, summer 2023, that would be helpful to see in that, on that list on the website.
I think Mike is leery of committing to a timeline to it, but I'll talk to him. He's kind of managing the implementation process.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I guess if there's anything that he's done hasn't taken credit for, then it would be great to see that. Thank you.
So yeah, Vianney?
Yes, I'm just wondering if that land on St. Mary's Road most likely is part of the school district. Shouldn't they be the one to be setting up so that it's a nice drop off like they have on School Street?
Shouldn't there be a nice drop off on St. Mary's?
If there is a drop off, shouldn't the responsibility falls onto the school district?
That's what we've been talking about as being a potential project.
Yeah.
Yes, but maybe the school district should be paying for it.
Well, they can contribute. They need to be at the table, but we have to initiate the project first.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other comments or input on the work plan? All right. I know we've jumped around a lot today for the people listening and also Patrick. I do want to acknowledge Patrick's work on putting this all together. He came in and, you know, the first half of the year, like he mentioned earlier, was a, you know, kind of transition. Mike Moran was doing double duty on triple duties and everything else. And Patrick's come in and has really been, doing a great job. So I really thank you for putting together this work plan. And I look forward to, you know, going over it with the city council, you know. Okay. So thank you. And thank you for that. I'd like to move on now to commissioner and staff updates. And the two standing items we want to talk about are GPAC and LRSP. Do either of Stella or Greg want to talk about those tonight?
I can give a very brief LRSP update. As Patrick indicated, there was the third meeting of the task force today, and well attended by both task force and the public. There were presentations today about the revised LRSP. The priority locations had been updated following some input at the public open house, which was held, I think, in December. And then there was some comment today to add the entire length of Pleasant Hill as a priority location. There was additional, and this was the first time that, you know, the task force and the public had seen other areas of the LRSP, including the location profiles and, you know, some of the draft safety measures, Carl, that I mentioned. So that was the status. I think the goal is to get a draft around to the task force in the near future, taking into account the feedback from today's meeting. And then, as Patrick mentioned, there's one more meeting of the task force, and then the LRSP will come to this commission for review and recommendation, and then to the city council for adoption. And Patrick, please correct me if I misstated anything there.
That's all correct. Thanks, Greg.
That's great. Well, thanks for your efforts on that. Okay. Stella, did you want to talk about GPAC at all?
Sure. Yeah, I can cover GPAC, and then I have one other item. So GPAC held a public workshop, a virtual workshop on the 24th, and that was to get public feedback and ideas and responses to the vulnerability assessment area, which is basically what kind of climate change triggered hazards are there, and then who does it affect or what does it affect? So people, populations, or assets, built environment things. It was a good workshop. I don't remember how many public attended, but there was a good showing, and I think it was very productive. The GPAC will be meeting in late February. I don't know the exact date. I think it's the third week. And at that point, they will be looking at a revised vulnerability assessment document from the consultants. And again, this is a review taking the populations and assets against the hazards that are defined, such as flooding, landslides, wildfire, et cetera, and determining the specific vulnerability level for that population or asset for each of those hazards. There was some presentation of a draft of that, the last GPAC meeting, with a number of questions. And so GPAC and the public are asked to submit their detailed information or detailed comments to staff, who will then be passing it back to consultants for a new version that will come to the next GPAC meeting. And I believe the consultants are also planning to present a draft goals, policies, and programs document that would be those things to address the vulnerabilities.
Mhm.
And that's the GPAC update.
I saw that some of the materials on the vulnerability lists, and boy, they're comprehensive. So, you know, thank you for spending time on that. That's a lot.
Yeah. It's a very long list of population and assets. And I think there was some discussion about, could some of those population groups be consolidated? Do they need to be at such a fine degree if ultimately the policy or the program to support them is the same? You know, the policy or program for 4 of the different population groups would be the same kind of policies or programs. So that's part of the work that the consultant's doing.
Great.
I have one other thing that I wanted to mention. So a person, member of the public, contacted me about a what sounds like a new sign on Moraga Road at St. Mary's Road that she said was something like alert for pedestrians. That was maybe illuminated. I haven't driven down to take a look at it myself. But her comment was that it's just in a place that's very doesn't always catch your eye, I guess, because people who are driving south on Moraga Road to want to make a left turn onto St. Mary's. That mainly their focus is on the oncoming traffic to see when there's a gap. They don't really see the pedestrians because of that behavior, but they also don't see this new sign apparently because of where it's mounted, I think very, very high and out of the line of sight. So I just wanted to raise that. I know I've driven that that patch, and it is really hard to keep your eyes on everything when making a left turn. Of course you have to, but really the worst is if a pedestrian is on the north side of the corner wanting to walk south, because it's just not where your eyes are looking. You have to, I think, work pretty hard to look in all directions there. So I hope that this sign is triggered perhaps by a PED call button, but I haven't gone down to check it. So I just wanted to ask Patrick what that sign's about.
I am not aware of the sign, but the company that manages the signals just installed an LPI for that crossing. So a 5-second LPI. So when the pedestrian button is hit, we're talking about the north-south leg on the east side of Moraga Road. They will get a 5-second head start, which will hopefully largely eliminate that gunning, trying to beat the northbound traffic, southbound traffic. So it should improve conditions for pedestrians there. But I'm not aware of the sign, so I need to look into that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I used to drive by myself, but okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Wasn't there a cyclist who got hurt there not too long last year? Was it?
I don't remember.
I don't think at that intersection, no.
Oh, really?
That I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I think that one has a left arrow. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
But you also can turn left when there's a gap.
Right.
I believe. Okay, it's that condition that's difficult, because I think then the pedestrian, would have the right of way, to cross. So the LPI is not always helpful, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, it won't always be helpful, but it should improve conditions because after that 5 seconds, the northbound traffic would have hit that intersection. Right now, they're set back about 90 feet.
Oh, yeah.
So I forget the name of the cross street there, but if you, next time you're out there, northbound traffic is not held at that intersection, it's held back
Yeah,
90 feet.
Yeah.
And so whatever gaps would have existed will be eliminated by that 5 second gap, which is
Okay.
only triggered when a pedestrian hits the call button. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, that does. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Any other announcements from the commissioners or anything? Then Patrick, this is your opportunity to, you don't have enough to do, but you also go to city council meetings and you have interactions with other staff. Is there anything you want to share from your perspective?
Here's what I'd like to share. State Assembly Bill 2449 mandates that on March 1st, all commissions will be meeting in person.
Oh,
So that'll take place a month from today. And so I'm going to be getting some information, which I will pass along to this commission, but we will be in person on March 1st.
will we go back to the same place?
It's a room in the library. I'm not sure where
Okay.
it was before the pandemic, but
Mhm.
I'm assuming the same space.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And will we have hybrid ability?
So yes, and that's being set up, and I don't have complete information on that now. However, for you commissioners, there is limited ability to be hybrid. So there are certain conditions that have to be met, and that's the information that I've asked of the city attorney and will be providing.
Great.
But
Will there be
members of the public would be able to hopefully dial in via some forum like YouTube or like Zoom and be able to make comment?
Right,
watch
and
the
it's,
proceedings?
unclear about consultant teams and things like that. So there's still some questions, but yeah.
So will you have the NIRUP or the city will there be an official memo of how all the different commissions should act?
That's what I've asked for.
Okay.
So we're still trying to interpret what the state law is, what the state is telling us, right? So
All right.
yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, that's big news. Okay.
Yes, but one more question. Do we have to wear a mask?
Nope.
No, okay.
Only if you want to.
If you want to, yeah.
Okay. What else? Anything else?
That's all I've got.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for your work, and Patrick, again, thank you for this this program you put together and shared with us.
Very helpful.
Thanks to the members of the public, and I understand that there's a lot of concerns about the Topper Lane project and others, and I think we'll have to have more clarification, and maybe that'll be at the next meeting. So thank you very much, and if there's nothing else, I'll adjourn this meeting. It's 8:54 p.m.